Evan was returning to our reality in high spirits. He had just slain another variant in the psychic hive mind known as Autumn Walker, therefore weakening his enemies in all realities. He had personally supported the fall of so many Earths by now that it would be pointless to try and count them. He was outside the facility in Carbondale, Kansas, when he felt an immense pressure invade both his mind and soul. An empty darkness filled his heart, and when he closed his eyes, Evan found himself standing in a dark void. There was a ruined Earth in the distance, one that had been torn into 3 pieces with rubble orbiting what was left.
"You're ignoring the task at hand."
A deep, commanding voice spoke into his mind, and Evan could see the shadow of a dark figure looming over him in space. He could see several outstretched arms with claws long enough to cut stars.
"Master,"
Evan whispered as he stared in awe. He had seen his master before, but the mere presence of such a powerful psychic was overwhelming. It felt as if his entire body would crumble at any moment.
"Find the anomaly,"
his master warned him in a dull tone.
"Or I'll pick you apart until I find him myself."
Yes, master." Evan trembled and then gulped as the image was ripped from his mind and he felt his soul return to his body. He was sweating beneath his tank top shirt, and he took a deep breath before entering the facility.
"Where have you been?"
Dr. Phillips scolded his protege upon laying eyes on him. Although he didn't trust Evan, the doctor had relied on him to ensure the test subjects never escaped. Dr. Martin Phillips was at his desk, feverishly watching the various computer screens. But instead of reviewing dreams, he was overlooking the footage of the subject's escape. He was tapping his finger next to the keyboard, obviously upset with the entire situation.
"I was looking for Autumn Walker and the other psychic you sent me for,"
Evan explained, both bored and annoyed with the doctor. He was growing tired of pretending.
"And you've returned empty-handed,"
Dr. Phillips noted as he watched Nicholas and the others huddle around Winter and vanish in the blink of an eye. There had been leftover energy at the center of where Winter had stood, the kind of energy that only psychics could produce, often when they were dreaming of other worlds.
"You've had your own problems while I was gone,"
Evan pointed out in a dry tone, rolling his eyes.
"You've managed to lose all 6 dreamers." "You little shit!"
Dr. Phillips growled as he stood up from his desk and pointed a finger in Evan's face.
"My problems are your problems, Evan. If you had been here, then perhaps we would still have our dreamers."
Evan shrugged as the doctor returned to the escape footage, watching the moment that they disappeared, over and over again. Evan looked over the old man's shoulder and observed the footage a few times before raising an eyebrow and hiding his smirk. It was in this moment that he had slipped.
"Winter must have teleported them,"
Evan suggested, and Dr. Phillips frowned before looking back at his protege.
"How is that possible?"
The doctor asked him before narrowing his eyes as another thought crossed his old but sharp mind.
"And how would you ever know that?"
Evan turned pale white as he realized that he had revealed that he possessed information that he shouldn't. Luckily enough, Evan was also sharp, perhaps sharper than the doctor, and he quickly came up with an excuse.
"Winter has mentioned several times over the years that she has witnessed her alternates teleport freely. It must be another psychic power that she possesses. Funny though, I would never have believed that she could actually do it."
Dr. Phillips recognized this truth, but he also knew that Evan had gotten lucky and saved himself suspicion. Little did Evan really know, Dr. Phillips had kept him close for years because of a deep suspicion of the young man. Evan and the doctor stared at one another for a moment before the latter faked a nod and returned his attention to the footage.
"You're probably right,"
Dr. Phillips agreed, and Evan breathed easy again.
"It's the only explanation that makes sense right now, I suppose."
"Where do you think they went?" Evan asked, genuinely curious. He also felt slighted that the dreamers had escaped his mental torture. He would have to up his game the next time he got them in his grasp. Reading minds wasn't the only skill he possessed. He could also break them.
There's no telling, Dr. Phillips sighed. I have a dozen different probabilities in my mind right now. Any one of them could have gone home, or perhaps all of them have. Or they've most likely hidden themselves. Perhaps in the safety of wherever Autumn Walker is.
Evan thought that over and shook his head.
I don't think they're foolish enough to go home, much less endanger those that they love. Surely they would expect us to search those places first. I also don't think they've parted ways either. They're the only real allies each other have. Well, cut your hair and get a shave, Dr. Phillips instructed without even looking at Evan. You might even want to dye your hair. We can't risk the subjects recognizing you as you pursue them.
Evan nodded, understanding fully that most of the dreamers had a grudge or deep-rooted fear of him. As he left the room, Dr. Phillips gave him one last order that came off as more of a warning.
Take as many men as you require, Evan, the old man instructed, and his tone darkened. But Evan, I'm giving you a no-kill order. If you kill any one of them, I'll have you shot.
Evan smirked as he exited the room, waving a hand back at the doctor to show that he understood. But understanding and complying were two different things entirely, as Evan had no intention of going after the escaped dreamers. They were small fish in a massive pond, and Evan did not serve Dr. Phillips. The Primordial had commanded him to find the Anomaly, and the consequences of failure were worse than he could ever imagine. So as Evan prepared to reinvent his physical appearance, he contemplated on just where he and 30 soldiers could find Autumn Walker and Eugene.